Every great TV show has a beginning.
But it's the finale that can leave its mark on television history.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Jeff, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast where we watch and discuss the pilots for shows while sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
But this month, we're doing things a little different. For the month of December, we're judging the series finales of some of our favorite shows that we've done on the pod.
And since we're covering series finales, we'll be delving much more into the series as a whole, so we must warn you, there are spoilers ahead. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. We are recording this. I am not editing it. I am putting together our intro and everything, and we are posting this. This is our special bonus episode for series. It's not series finale month anymore, but we are starting the new year off with a series finale, and it's kind of the series finale, definitely the series finale of the year, maybe of the decade, who knows. We still have half of the decade to go, but we are doing the series finale for Stranger Things.
Yep.
We announced it last week on our pod. And it's been 9.5 years of Stranger Things, which is crazy when you think about it.
Because it literally started a month after we met.
Yep.
Yeah, it started July 2016, and you and I met around July 9th on our dating app, and then we met in person around June 16th, 2016.
Yes.
And the rest is history. So this show is as old as our friendship.
Yep.
So
we have known each other as long as Stranger Things has been around.
And
it's crazy.
Another little bit of trivia. We might have said this during when we did Stranger Things, but we got engaged after season 2's season finale.
Yes.
We had watched it, and then we were just hanging out in bed, and you were like, hey, I have a question for you. And I was like, what? And you popped the question. So Stranger Things is really tied to our relationship.
Yes.
So we really wanted to get this done. Of course, the Duffer Brothers are not on our schedule. So this came out just Wednesday night.
Yep.
Yeah. So we had to record it, watch it, and then record it.
And I literally finished typing everything up 5 minutes ago, printed it out, got it all together, and now we're recording.
Yeah, and we had Maddie, so
yes.
we obviously are not going to record the pod and stuff when she's
Right.
here, not just because she's here, but we had things to do and family were visiting and whatnot. So
this was an emotional one. I will say I don't think, especially if you're a big fan of the series like we were not completely prepared for this finale just because we weren't ready for it to be over. We didn't want it to be over, but I feel like they did a good job of resolving everything and bringing everything to a close. So since it's only 2 days old, and who knows when you're going to actually be listening to this episode, but this episode is coming out on the 2nd of January, and the episode is only 2 days old, I am going to be going over the plot summary. And even the basis of the plot summary is still kind of a little long, but I'm still leaving so much out because it was a 2-hour series finale. I'm really just giving you the cliff notes of it, the summarized version of it, and I'm also leaving out the little possible twist at the end. Yeah. I left that out intentionally just because I'm like, okay, I don't want this to be, even though we do give you a spoiler warning in the intro, I don't want to completely spoil this because it's only been 2 days, but I still want to talk about Stranger Things and our love for it, and we got some stories to tell, as always. So let's just go ahead and get right into it because I don't know how long this episode's going to be. Anna's going to give us some episodes.
Maybe it'll be long, maybe it'll be short.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll find out.
At the end, we will know. All right, Stranger Things, Chapter 8, The Right Side Up. Stranger Things is an American sci-fi drama that originally premiered on Netflix on July 15th, 2016, and concluded on December 31st, 2025. The series had a total of 5 seasons and 42 episodes. The series was created by Matt and Ross Duffer, often credited as the Duffer Brothers. The series finale was written and directed by the Duffer Brothers. Stranger Things is set in the 80s in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana, when 11-year-old Will Byers goes missing. His three best friends, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, begin searching for him, but end up finding a mysterious young girl who calls herself 11 and who possesses psychokinetic abilities. We come to find out through the course of the series that 11 accidentally opened a gate to an alternate dimension called the Upside Down that is filled with hostile and violent creatures. The cast for the final season...
This is long, sorry. There are a lot of characters.
Okay.
So there are a lot, the cast is huge by season 5.
All right. The cast for the final season includes Winona Ryder as Joyce Byers, Will and Jonathan's fiercely loyal and resilient mother. David Harbour as Jim Hopper, originally the sheriff of Hawkins and known for being tough but loving. Millie Bobby Brown as 11, Jane L., all three of her names that she goes by throughout the series. A mysterious girl with psychic powers. Finn Wolfhard as Mike Wheeler, the group's fearless leader and 11's longtime boyfriend. Gavin Matarazzo.
Gayton.
I always do that. Gayton Matarazzo as Dustin Henderson, the brain of the group. Dustin is highly intelligent, extremely loyal, and develops a rebellious streak after the death of his friend Eddie. Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas Sinclair. Lucas is the sensible one of the group. He is known for being unusually calm and collected. Noah Schnapp as Will Byers. Will has been the focal point for much of the series as he was taken in the pilot episode and had a strange connection to the Upside Down all throughout the series. Will often felt like the runt of the group until he discovered his inner strength.
And boy, does he.
Sadie Sink as Max Mayfield. Will spends much of...
Max.
Did I say May?
Yeah, you said Will.
Whoops. Max... Let me start that over.
Okay.
Sadie Sink as Max Mayfield. Max spends much of season 5 in a coma, but serves an important role with taking down Vecna. Max is Lucas's girlfriend and is known for being unfiltered and fearless. Natalia Dyer as Nancy Wheeler, Mike's older sister. Nancy is practical, intelligent, and ambitious, and becomes a total badass by the end of the series. Charlie Heaton is Jonathan Byers, Will's older brother and Nancy's longtime boyfriend. Jonathan mostly keeps to himself, is an avid movie lover, and will do anything to protect his younger brother, Will. Joe Keery as Steve Harrington. Steve began the series as a shallow popular boy, and by the end of the series had become an older brother figure to many of the younger characters, particularly Dustin, who became his best friend. Maya Hawke is Robin Buckley, Steve's other best friend, and manages the local radio station. Robin is known for being quirky, snarky, but has a big heart and often thinks outside of the box. Brett Gelman as Murray Bauman, one of my faves.
Oh, he's the best.
Murray is eccentric, paranoid, and impatient, but always comes through for his friends and is very resourceful. Is it Priya Ferguson as Erica Sinclair, Lucas's younger sister? Erica is very sarcastic, unfiltered, and is a big science enthusiast. She frequently helps the group after learning about the underground Russian operation under the Starcourt Mall. Cara Bono as Karen effing Wheeler. Mike and Nancy and Holly's mom. For most of the series, Karen is oblivious as to what's really going on in Hawkins until season 5, when she really steps up to protect her kids.
Kind of became like, not the star, but became like kind of the badass.
She kind of had
5.
a renaissance in the final season. Like, you know, she kind of joked in a lot of interviews that she was always just bringing a casserole or doing the laundry, and she really came into it, which I love because I have loved Cara Bono forever.
Yeah.
Jamie Campbell Bower as Henry Creel / Vecna, the series' main antagonist. Linda Hamilton as Dr. K, the series' secondary antagonist who works for the military. Nell Fisher as Holly Wheeler, Mike and Nancy's younger sister. Holly begins season 5 as a shy, timid young girl, but ends up following in her siblings' footsteps as a natural-born leader. Like most series finales for epic fantasy shows, the audience reaction was mixed. Some felt that the final battle was rushed and we didn't get enough resolution with the characters, while others felt the series finale was a perfect blend of action and emotional drama. Even though Stranger Things has ended, the franchise isn't over. The First Shadow, a stage play that serves as Henry Vecna's origin story, takes place in Hawkins during the 50s, premiered on Broadway on April 22nd, 2025, and on London's West End on December 14th, 2020. The play features many of the adult characters when they were teenagers. An animated series called Tales of 85 is set to premiere sometime in 2026, and that series will focus on the events between seasons 3 and 4. You can currently watch the entire series on Netflix.
All right. Okay, so what did you think of this final season as a whole?
I loved it. I mean, in the sense of that we were waiting for it for so long.
Right.
I always go back and rewatch certain episodes, and I had started kind of rewatching everything to sort of, again, remind myself of everything that happened. But I loved it. I thought it was great in the sense of it wrapping everything up, like kind of giving closure to everyone's stories. And you're not going to make every person happy with the ending. I mean, I think the internet kind of became obsessed with who was going to die, who was going to live, and what about this person, and then trying to read into interviews and things people said and things that were posted, and going back and watching episodes and looking for Easter eggs and clues. And I mean, you can kind of become obsessive about it. And I really, really, really try not to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would look at episodes, obviously, because I grew up in this exact time. I would have been 2 years older than them. So I kind of am like, this was my era. And I loved it for that nostalgia, but I wasn't looking at, one of the binders or a poster behind the classroom or in a classroom going, I bet this means Barb is still alive or Barb is still dead or whatever it meant. So I loved it for what it was. I mean, obviously 5 million other things could have happened. And, I think they just finally had to end it, but I think it ended in a good way.
Right.
What did you think?
I really loved the final season. I was very, I think like a lot of people, and like anybody would be for a show that lasted this long and a show that made this much of an impact on pop culture, I was very skeptical of the final season. I was like, well, it's not going to be as good as this season, or it's not going to be as good as that season. And I think after a show like Game of Thrones comes out where the final season was very lackluster, the final season did disappoint a lot of people. Everyone was like, same exact thing. Everyone was betting on like who was going to die, who was going to live, who was going to become king, who was going to do this, who was going to do that. And it ended up being nothing like anyone thought it was going to be, and not as many main characters died as people. It's really weird when people are like, not enough people died. I'm always just like, I never understand that mentality, but like, some people think that it matters more when more people die, but like, I don't necessarily agree with that. I thought that they did a really good job of wrapping things up, but doing a really good job of developing all the characters and kind of all the, like Karen Wheeler's character arc of the entire season of right at the beginning of season 5, coming into contact with a Demogorgon and not even hesitating to protect her daughter, and then getting attacked, and then her whole arc in the hospital during when Robin and Lucas and Max and Vicky are escaping from the Demodogs, and then her defeating the it was just so great. And then Will's character just kind of coming into his own and kind of realizing that he's connected to Vecna and the Upside Down, and figuring out how to get into Vecna's mind to control him and other people. It was just so beautifully done, and I just felt like I love the character development of Holly. I thought the actress that played Holly Wheeler was incredible. I hope that actress has a bright future ahead of her, because she did
she was really cute.
She did an amazing job. I know that they replaced
and Derek.
Oh, yeah, I didn't include him because he wasn't in the main cast, but Derek and Vicky and a lot of characters that were introduced this season that, like, we...
and that were brought back.
That got to know and were brought back, and then Mr. Clark, the science teacher, getting brought in.
And the librarian.
I love that, and and the connection with the librarian, who Hopper also hooked up with earlier in season one. And yeah, it's just really, it's just cool how they did kind of tie it up in a little bow, but they did leave a lot. It did have somewhat of an ambiguous ending. I feel like that there was a little bit of mystery left. There is still, if they really wanted to go back, they could bring it back and do a 90s thing very easily. And I don't know if they did that on purpose. I don't know if they just did that because that's how the show should have ended, just a little bit more open-ended, open for interpretation. But the season as a whole, I loved it. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. There were some episodes that I didn't love, but I did like. I think the second to last episode, I liked Will's coming out scene. I think it was other scenes where I was just like, okay, y'all are really just trying to stretch out this runtime. I was just like, y'all are really trying to make this episode longer than an hour. But like the Max and Holly and the Upside Down escaping Henry's mind, and they talk for like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, I was even before like the internet exploded about that scene. I was like, why are they talking?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, like,
I was like, run, Max, run.
And then kind of the whole scene between Jonathan and Nancy was really sweet, but it was also like kind of like, okay, like how did the splooge stuff become rock solid? Like I didn't understand that. And there were...
How did the table survive and yet floors and stairs were collapsing?
How did they not sink? Like, there were some things where I was just like, okay, but...
And that's where I try not to be like the internet, like really getting hardcore into those, like...
I mean, we accept the existence of Vecna and Demogorgons. Like, why, question other things? And I try to do the same thing, too. I try to be like you and not... think too deeply into things, but it's hard not to when you've just been so invested in a show.
Oh,
but yeah, as a whole, I loved every episode in its own way. Escape from Camazotz might be like one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. That was such a good episode. And then the Sorcerer was an amazing episode that became viral.
Took my breath away.
We were crying, we had chills, like we rewound it like 5 times, and we just kept watching that clip of Will holding up the Demogorgons, and it was just like such an epic scene. Stranger Things has really had a lot of epic moments, but season 5 had kind of took the cake with a lot of them. I think the only other emotional scene that I would watch all the time is Max in season 4 escaping through when they're in the graveyard in the Dear Billy episode. But yeah, the series as a whole has been fantastic. It will kind of go down as one of my all-time favorite shows, easily.
Absolutely.
A show that now that it's over, I definitely want to start over and watch it all now because we have all of it now, and I just want to watch because the series began kind of how it ended, and it was all full circle, and I think a lot of us knew that's how it was going to end, like with them playing D&D together one last time before they go off and live their own lives and become adults. And I thought that scene was, I kind of held it together because I was just like trying to like remember everything. So I was like, we're going to be recording this tomorrow. So I was like trying to remember everything. And I really kind of want to go back and rewatch it as like not a podcaster, but as a fan of the show, and really kind of like let myself get emotional because I didn't. And I was kind of expecting myself to, but maybe like I said, I was kind of more thinking about like the episode because we had to record it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch the whole series again. I mean, that's easily every season is so good. Every episode is so good. It's so easy to watch. And anyone who says that like they can't pay attention to it or can't keep up with it, I'm just like, I don't understand how you could say that, but different strokes. Okay. So we will talk probably more about the series finale once we do the plot summary.
Okay.
I am going to ask you one question, then I'm going to go ahead and get into the plot summary.
Okay.
So, because this isn't kind of part of the plot summary, it was just a question that I had that I thought of earlier today. So, there's an episode that we're doing later this month where we talk about a lot of our favorite bands, a lot of our favorite songs, and this isn't necessarily that question, but so the whole thing with Vecna is when he has you in a trance, a way to get out of it is for someone to play in the real world to play your favorite song or a song that you are familiar with, that you love, or that brings back a certain memory. My question for you is, and this isn't going to be, I doubt this is going to be a long question or answer. What would be your Vecna song? Like, what would be your song to get you out of the trance?
I think one of mine would be, I know that you asked me, you prepped me sort of for this one while we were going to work out today, or maybe
we were.
Yeah. And I've been trying to think about it, and one that just sort of came to me, I don't know why, because I'm like looking up like the lyrics, but it's one that an album that I can always listen to. It's from Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette.
Nice.
But it's You Learn.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is a song that I feel it's just like it's about like your inner problems and bearing your soul, and I just about life and how you learn, and just about kind of anxiety and just like all the troubles in your life, and so of just how you learn, and that's how you learn to live through life. And it's been a song that ever since that album came out, I could always put it on, and it's just like, you live, you learn, you cry, you learn, and I can't sing, so don't come at me in the comments. But I kind of feel like that has always been my life, is like, nothing is ever truly a mistake if you learn something from it. And it's just, to me, I love Alanis, so she would probably be my kind of go-to girl to get me out of a Vecna trance. Like, if there was anyone that could do it, it would be Alanis Morissette. I mean, I feel like she's the one.
Aww.
What about you?
Mine isn't as like emotionally connected like you are, but it is a song that I've loved my entire life, and it is just a song that is impossible when it comes on. It's one, impossible to not put me in a good mood, and two, it just always like fills me with like nostalgia and memories, and that's Walk of Life by Dire Straits.
Oh, okay.
My mom used to play that song when I was a baby to help put me to sleep.
Aww.
I was a very cranky, sickly, I would say, baby, and I kept my mom up at all hours of the night. The only thing that would put me to sleep during one of my crying spells, I think I was sick one time and I wouldn't stop crying, and the only thing that would put me to sleep is my mom would drive around the neighborhood and play Walk of Life over and over again, and that's like the only thing that would put me to sleep. And much later on in life, I loved that song so much, and I think one time it came on in the car on one of like my mix CDs, and my mom was in the car with me, and she told me that story, and I was like, oh, I guess I've just always had like some type of connection to this song. It's just a very first of all, it's just a very catchy song, and it's not really I could probably look up what it's about, but like it doesn't really, the meaning behind it doesn't really affect me. It's more of just like the memories that it brings and the feeling that it gives me of just feeling happy and reminding me of like, back when I was younger and when things were a little bit, more innocent, things were a little bit easier, and I would just listen to the song over and over again. So that's mine. We're both such lovers of music, so I mean, it would be hard to pick one. I think we have a lot of songs that would get us out of it, but if there was one song to get me out of it, I think it would be that one.
Well, obviously, because, it's deeply ingrained in your bebe.
Yep.
Since you were a bebe.
Exactly.
So. All right, you're going to get into the plot summary?
I'm going to get into the plot summary. I try to summarize as best as I can. I ended up with a little over 3 pages, so
all right.
So that's the best I could do. Like I said, it's 2 hours, and I'm still giving you a summarized version of it.
It's a very overview version because we don't want to have any spoilers. And
well, I mean, there are going to be spoilers in this, but like you're going to get, I mean, hopefully you've already watched it. We gave you a spoiler warning in the beginning of the episode, so hopefully but there is one last spoiler that I just refuse to say because I'm just like, I can't give you the very last like kind of twist to it. So, all right. So quick recap, just in case. The gang is fighting Vecna one last time. Dustin discovers that the Upside Down isn't another dimension, but a wormhole to another dimension where Vecna resides. The other dimension is referred to as the Abyss, which was perfect. Vecna has kidnapped Holly and 11 other children from Hawkins to use up their energy to merge the Abyss and our world together. The gang is going to travel into the Upside Down and climb to the top of the radio tower, wait for the Abyss to come to them, and then enter the Abyss and destroy Vecna and his lair. So we got 4 teams. All right, we got Team 1. We got Joyce, Mike, Dustin, Steve, Nancy, Caleb. Sorry, not Caleb. Nancy, Lucas, Jonathan, and Will. That was my bad. Is climbing to the top of the radio tower to enter the Abyss. Murray is their driver. Team 2 is Hopper, 11, and Collie. So 11 discovered that Collie was being held at the Hawkins lab, I think at the end of episode 4, at the end of volume 1. They're at Hawkins lab in the Upside Down to enter a sensory deprivation tank so they can enter Vecna's mind. Team 3 is Erica and Mr. Clark, the science teacher. They're up in a clock tower across from the military base to keep watch and to control the gates. Team 4 is Max and Vicky, Robin's girlfriend. They're at the radio station in our world. Max is unable to walk since she just woke up from a coma. 11 is going to bring Max into her mind so they can enter Vecna's mind. All right. Team 1 climbs up the radio tower in the Upside Down. They finally make it to the top, and they see the Abyss is coming. It has begun coming down towards them. The plan is that 11 will stop Vecna in time before they get crushed. This ends up taking more time than they planned, and the Abyss begins crushing the tower. The Abyss stops moving, but the tower is on the verge of collapsing. Steve loses his balance and falls off the side, barely hanging on. Just as his hand slips, we think this is the end of old Steve. A hand reaches out, pulls him back up. It is Jonathan. My heart nearly leapt out of my chest. I was like, it was like when Max was originally waking up in Dear Billy, where like I was like holding my breath, and then as soon as Jonathan lifted him up, it was like, I could breathe again.
It was very sweet.
Team 2 enters Hawkins' lab and finds the tank. 11 and Collie prepare. 11 talks to Hopper and tells him that she'll always be grateful for him taking her in, raising her, and loving her like a daughter. She tells him that he needs to trust her judgment, even if it means she will die saving them. 11 and Collie enter the Void and bring Max in with them. Max acts as their guide through Vecna's mind. They enter Vecna's mind. They finally find Vecna and the 12 kids. 11 knocks out Vecna because causing the kids to snap out of their trance. Collie uses her power of illusion to hide her and the kids while 11 fights Vecna. She stalls them off long enough so they can all escape and head to the cave where Vecna is too afraid to enter. Vecna uses his power of manipulation to show Hopper the conversation between Collie and 11 that they had in the previous episode, where they agreed to sacrifice themselves to save the world. The military will never stop trying to find them and use their blood to make more super babies, so if they're gone, then there's no more experiments. Because they're the last ones, other than Vecna, who, they're not going to try and, they're trying to defeat Vecna. Vecna also manipulates Hopper into thinking 11 is injured and bleeding. He ends up pulling 11, Collie, and Max out of Vecna's mind, leaving Holly to lead the kids into the cave. Vecna finally enters the cave despite being scared of the cave itself. He enters the cave, so Holly leads the kids into the underground cavern where we see a memory of young Henry trying to stop a man from shooting him. Young Henry has no choice but to kill the man. He notices the man is holding a suitcase. His curiosity gets the best of him, and he opens the suitcase and sees a glowing rock. Henry picks it up, and the rock consumes him, showing us how Henry originally got his powers. Will enters Vecna's mind, telling him that it isn't his fault, and it's not too late to change. We learn that Vecna is really under control of the Mind Flayer, and he refuses to change because the Mind Flayer has showed him the truth. Vecna awakens, as does the Mind Flayer, and the battle begins. Super summarized version. After setting it on fire and causing several explosions, the Flayer is defeated. Vecna goes after the group, but is stopped by 11, who entered the Abyss. Vecna is then impaled by a rock. Nancy and Mike find Holly and release her, as well as the other kids. Vecna wakes up, shows that he is still alive. Joyce takes the axe and says, "You effed with the wrong family," and begins hacking at Vecna's head. Each blow, we see each character, and that character remembering someone close to them that died due to Vecna in the Upside Down. Joyce and Jonathan remember Will being taken and being possessed. They also remember Bob. Nancy remembers her bestie Barb. Dustin remembers Eddie. Lucas remembers Max being in a coma. Joyce completely severs Vecna's head, and that's it. Evil has been defeated. Everyone leaves the abyss as Murray sets up explosives in the Upside Down to destroy it once and for all, setting it to a timer attached to a record player playing Purple Rain. As the group is escaping the Upside Down, they re-enter our world. What?
The first song is When Doves Cry.
The album is Purple Rain, though.
Oh, okay.
They're playing the entire album of Purple Rain because Purple Rain plays during the scene I'm about to. Okay. It begins with When Doves Cry.
Yes.
As the group is escaping the Upside Down and re-entering our world, they enter our world and they are stopped by Dr. K and the military. All they want is 11. They want to capture her and use her blood. Everyone turns around and sees 11 at the gate in the Upside Down. She brings Mike into the void to say goodbye to him one last time. She knows that none of them will be safe as long as she's alive. When the explosions go off, the Upside Down is destroyed. 11 disappears in the rubble, and the gate finally closes for good. That's the last time we see 11. 18 months later, it's May 1989, and the gang is graduating. Dustin's speech at the ceremony is very moving, encouraging everyone to be brave and not to be afraid to go against the grain. Speaking of graduations, I know we've probably talked about our graduations at some point, but do you have any memories of your high school graduation?
Well, since it's specifically that Dustin is the valedictorian, I think I've told you like about our post-graduation party and kind of all those things, but one of the specific things that I do remember about my graduation was like I really hated our valedictorian's graduation speech. I hate saying I hated it. I just didn't like it. It wasn't very motivating. It wasn't, to me, very like empowering to our class to go off and do something. The graduate who got it, she was probably a nice girl. Obviously, everyone in my class was really nice, but it was really all about her and just her personal journey of coming to America as an immigrant, and which is great. My parents were immigrants, so I can definitely resonate with that. But it was like all about her and her own experience and just how, you know, she was going to go off into the world and I guess do things, which she has. But it kind of left us like going, okay, well, we just now heard about your life story. So, all right, let's go party. So I felt like, I always feel like a graduation speech should be something like really empowering to the group itself. Mm-hmm. And obviously you're the valedictorian. So yeah, maybe a little bit about yourself, but I felt like we were all left wanting more. Yeah. Maybe that's just my interpretation of it, but I wasn't very impressed by it. So, like, do you remember yours? I think you were friends with your valedictorian.
Yeah, I worked with my valedictorian at McDonald's, and she was a really sweet girl. She was, I mean, like, the thing was is that, like, I just, it's funny because, like, she was our valedictorian, but, like, I never thought of her as that because she was just, like, we had so many kids in my class, so it was just kind of, you were just one of the smart kids. That's kind of how I viewed her. But my graduation was, I mean, it was kind of uneventful. It was more of the events before and after my graduation that I remember the most. On my way to graduation, I almost got into a car accident.
Oh.
I had my windows rolled down. I had my cap and gown hung up in my back seat. And I had my window rolled down, probably because I was like smoking a cigarette or something. And the cap and gown flew off the hanger and then flew in front of my face. And then I swerved off of the road and nearly drove into a ditch. Luckily, I had two of my friends in the car with me, and we were able to. And luckily, I was on Elliott Road, which is a very dangerous road in Baton Rouge. And luckily, there was no oncoming cars coming. And also, I was lucky that I had other people in the car with me, and we were able to pull my car out of the ditch and make it to our graduation on time.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the night of my graduation, my friend Ryan had a graduation party where I'm going to talk about this band in one of our future episodes. My friend's band, the Inspectors, played at Ryan's graduation party. I was under the influence, so I have bits and pieces of that memory. I was on a hallucinogenic substance, and then I went back to my friend's house, and we stayed up all night and just, like, watched movies and stuff like that. And, yeah, I mean, like, my graduation itself was like I said, we had, like, 400 kids in my class. So it was, like...
Yeah, I only had, I think, like, 170-ish or so.
It was very, they had to keep everything short because calling out all the diplomas was going to take forever. So it was just kind of like, all right, let's try and make this as quickly as possible. I don't remember the graduation speech. I don't really remember any of that. So, like I said, I was just kind of, I wasn't really thinking. I was just glad I graduated. I was just glad I got out of school. I didn't have to take summer classes. I didn't have to repeat any grades. But yeah, I mean, like, that was my like I said, my graduation was so many kids in my class, so it kind of was unable to be memorable because I had no involvement in it other than I got my diploma. All right, so we get kind of what happens to all of these characters. We're 18 months later. Steve stayed in Hawkins and is now the middle school baseball coach and sex ed teacher. I thought that was funny.
That was hilarious.
Robin is attending Smith College in Massachusetts. Jonathan is attending school in New York and is currently working on his first film. Nancy was attending Emerson but dropped out after getting offered a journalist position at the Boston Herald, which is pretty cool. The four agreed to meet up as much as they can. Hopper and Joyce finally get their date at Enzo's. They finally get their dinner.
It was cute.
Hopper gets a job offer, I think he said in Montauk, and asks Joyce to come with him to start a new life. He finally proposes to Joyce. She, of course, says yes. The rest of the group get together one last time to play Dungeons and Dragons, just like how the series began. So it's Mike, Lucas, Will, Dustin, and Max. At the end of their campaign, they ask Mike, the Dungeon Master, what happens to their characters. So they're having what happens to their characters, but it's really like what happens to them.
Yeah.
Lucas and Max move to a new town and start their new life together.
It was so cute.
I know. We see them at the movies holding hands and smooching. Dustin goes off to college. I think he said he was going to college on the West Coast. He said he was going halfway across the country, so I'm assuming that's the West Coast, but keeps in contact with everyone. He and Steve are seen about to go on a road trip in an RV. Will moves to a new town and is seen at a bar with the guy, so, he kind of came into his own and became true to himself. Mike, the storyteller, says he will continue telling stories. We see him typing in his college dorm room. Full of tears, the group puts away their character notebooks and leave the basement. Just as they leave, Holly and her friends rush downstairs to begin their first campaign. Mike watches as they begin their journey and making memories they'll never forget. End of series. So there is one last twist when Mike is saying what happens to all the characters. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I figured I gave you enough spoilers. You can go and watch the episode and see it for yourself. It is 2 hours long. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it now. I'm sorry if you haven't watched it yet. I gave you enough spoiler tags. I have one last question before we do this, before we end this out, and I believe talk about what our theme for January is going to be.
Okay.
Because even though we've recorded all those episodes, we still haven't announced what our theme is. So, with all of this, particularly I was thinking about when it was Steve, Robin, Jonathan, and Nancy on the roof of the radio station where they have kind of gone off and they're kind of reuniting for this and kind of talking about how they promise to keep in touch and reunite every now and then. And kind of got me thinking about your friends from high school, your childhood friends that you kind of reunite with later on in life, and kind of that moment where you realize that things are different and that maybe not in a bad way, not necessarily in a good way, but just that they're different and that you're not who you used to be. Is there a time where you specifically remember thinking that or feeling that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and for me, I felt like it came in various waves over time. I mean, I graduated high school in 1987. Like I said, I was 2 years older than the Stranger Things, the four guys. But, I think when you're that age, you just don't, again, really know who you are yet, kind of like Will. And I think that's why that was such a big arc and why I think it was really important. And kind of what I also told you when we were discussing the questions is that something I'm a little jealous of kids these days is that they are very empowered of not being afraid of saying who they are or what they feel. Now, sometimes it's nonsensical. I'm anxious today because I had to wake up and go to school. We all have to do that. But again, I don't want to diss on, anxieties and stuff like that. But I definitely feel like this generation is much more open and free to say those things where back in the 80s, we just weren't. It was like, you do this and you feel this way, and if you don't, you're bad, you're stupid, or whatever. And I think that even goes with who your friend groups are.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you're with your friend groups because those are the people that you grew up with, or that live near your house, or that you had classes with. But I definitely have come to realize that some of my friendships weren't always the best for me, and that I had friend groups because of convenience.
Right.
And, a lot of people, in fact, your mom also called me bossy earlier this week. And, I laugh at that because I think a lot of people think that I'm very, very assertive. And I mean, sometimes I can be, but a lot of times I'm not. And so I definitely feel when I was in high school, I was not very assertive and would let people tell me what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And it wasn't until years later that I looked back and was like, oh my God, like, I hate saying took advantage of me because that might be too strong, but definitely friends that just probably weren't great for me. And we're still somewhat friends, but I look back and go like, if I could have changed things, that dynamic would have been different. And so, yeah, I definitely feel that. And then even with college friends as well, I think things happen and things change, that you just don't have a lot of things in common with them anymore. And that can definitely change the dynamic. And I can definitely say I was single for so long, and I don't have my own children. When you have friends that have been married long term and have like 3 and 5 kids, sometimes your mutual understandings don't come together. Like I'm like, I can go on vacation whenever I feel like it. And they're like, I can't because I have school events and PTA meetings and I have to take my kids to soccer practice or whatever it might be. So I definitely think things change. I think you can hold friendships together, and, seeing those scenes, even with the 4 boys and Max and then the 4 on the roof, you're hopeful that they do stay friends. Yeah. But, it's not always a horrendous thing if you go your separate ways. Obviously, they've been through some great experiences together, and obviously great trauma and great exhilaration and love and friendship. So, it's a tough thing to keep a friendship over 40 plus years. Yeah. So, yeah. What about you?
I mean, I had it like you. It was at different points at different times where I kind of realized that it's not the same anymore. Like it's not always going to be, us hanging out and doing the things that we used to do, because we're not kids anymore. And it's like, we don't have the, like you said, we don't really have the time to sit around and play D&D or play video games or go out to a bar or do other things that you used to do when you were younger, because, you get older and you have responsibilities, and also your priorities change and your interests change. And I feel like I was someone that I didn't grow up faster than my friends. This isn't what I'm about to say because it might sound this way. I just went through different things than they did a lot earlier. I moved to Florida when I was 21. I did it on a whim. I moved there with some friends. I ended up meeting my first wife. We had Maddie together. We did not stay together for very long. We separated, got divorced, and then I kind of moved back home. I always say with my tail between my legs, but I don't really feel that way anymore. I kind of moved home because I had to, and I just remember going to hang out with my friends. I remember one of the first times I hung out with my friend group, and we went to Chimes together, and I just remember all of us sitting together, and it just not feeling the same. Like, it was just kind of like, we were all, you could also kind of tell, and there was another, I think maybe it was La Coretta where we went to as well, where it was another group of us, where you could just kind of tell, like, it was like, yeah, we all still love each other, we all still care about each other, but there's just not that connection anymore. There just wasn't that, like, oh, well, we hung out because we had this thing in common. Well, I'm not interested in this thing anymore. So what do we actually have in common anymore? It's just that's kind of how it felt. And it was a bummer, but at the same time, it felt like a new chapter in my life was starting, and it made me feel kind of hopeful for the future. It made me feel, obviously sad, because hanging out with these people that I considered my best friends, it was just like, oh, we just don't have that connection anymore. I'm also someone, I think the main problem is that I am just someone that I'm a very in the present person. I like being in the present. I like thinking about the future. I am not one to live in the past, and I feel like there's a difference between nostalgia and living in the past. And I am someone that, like, I loved being a kid. I loved high school. I had a great time in high school. I had a great time post high school. I had great friends. We made a lot of great memories, but I just don't want to sit around and talk about that all day. Like, I just don't. I want to talk about, oh, what's currently going on in your life, instead of, hey, remember that one time in high school? Yeah, it's great to go back and reminisce for, like an evening, if you're like at a reunion, or if you haven't seen people in a long time. But when that is like the only conversations you're having with these people, it's like, are those really still your friends? Like, or are they just like, are they just like ghosts of your past or something like that you just keep being reminded of all of these things that I'm not trying to forget my past, but I'm not trying to dwell in it. So, I think that's why I'm so, when people, especially like, my family, or when my sibling, or when someone like wants to talk about something from back in the day, I always kind of like let out a sigh or maybe roll my eyes. 'Cause I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. Like,
right.
And it's not that I'm ashamed of it. I just like don't dwell on it. So, I'm just not thinking about it. But yeah, there were different times where I tried to hang out with my old friends, and I'm just like, this just isn't the same. Like, it's just not. There are plenty of people from my past that I'm still friends with. There are plenty of people I went to high school with, or that I met in my 20s that I'm still friends with. Nick Peroni, #1 fan of the podcast. I met him probably back in like 2009 or 10 or something like that. I've known him since forever. So, I did meet him in my adult years, so maybe that's different. But, like, I have plenty of, like, I still have Blake. I still have other people that I'm still friends with. So, yeah, there's that. But for the most part, I would say about 90% of my friends from high school I don't really talk to anymore.
Yeah.
And unlike, I feel like you have been able to maintain your friendships. And I feel like that y'all have been able to maintain these friendships because y'all continue to create new memories.
And I will say that particularly for my current New Orleans group of like Tara, Colleen, Tony, Lori, and then, I didn't go to high school with Darnell, but Darnell through Lori.
Yeah.
I knew Lori since junior high, and then Colleen and Tara, we were just acquaintances in high school. We never hung out. And then it wasn't until like 2012 when Tara got really sick and people asked me to try to find out what happened. It was kind of through her, being in a coma that we became friends. That sounds crazy. I can go into that story another day. But I think that's actually a good way to look at it, is like, we don't have a lot of high school memories to keep going back to. All of ours are current. Whereas some of my other friend groups that I had in high school, when we meet up, a lot of it is oftentimes, oh, remember when that happened or when that happened? And I definitely can feel you on that. So, yeah.
All right. This ended up not being that long of an episode. I'm kind of glad because we didn't reveal too much, and we really just wanted to talk about Stranger Things for a little bit. Show that means a lot to us, and a show that we both love very much, and a show that we will probably never stop watching.
You'll leave for work here in a minute, and I'll probably turn it on. So, yeah.
Yeah, so before we wrap this up, let's talk about January. We are technically in January, but we can go ahead and talk about what you can expect from us for the next 4 episodes.
Yep.
So this was an idea that, I think I've talked about this in one of our January shows that we already recorded, but a lot of times Anna comes up with the ideas for our themes. Sometimes it's collaborative. Every so often I come up with the theme. This was one of the ones where I think I came up with it. Maybe I came to you. Maybe it was a collaborative thing. But I specifically wanted to do it specifically for a particular show that's going to come out in 2 weeks. but we are doing our favorite shows of 2025.
Yep.
We had four shows to choose from. So Anna chose 2, I chose 2, and next week it's going to be Anna's first choice. We're both really excited. The episodes we've recorded have been really good and have been a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun this month rewatching these shows, and it's been a great year for the podcast. We started going from 8 episodes a month to 4, which has been really great on us, and we've been able to give you more quality episodes and giving us more time to come up with themes and to watch shows, that we're not running out of questions and stories to tell. I don't feel like we'll ever run out of stories to tell.
Oh, no.
Just an infinite amount of stories, and we are looking forward to this new year, and we can't wait to come up with more themes and watch more shows and give you more episodes.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
I'm excited too. So
tell your friends about the pod. Tell your friends
about the pod, and here is to another great year.
I love it.
I love it.
I love you.
Okay, I love you. All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook and Threads. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, I have the worm.
Of course.
And the hole.
Okay.
The water and salt for the pool of water that the sensory tank that 11 gets in, the radio, the wheelchair, the clock, the hand, the suitcase and the rock, the fire and the axe for Joyce.
Nice.
The graduation, any of the kids with the graduation caps, the ring for when Hopper asked Joyce to marry him, the dinner plate and the wine, the dragon for the last Dungeons and Dragons, the record. I don't even know I think there is a record, like a record album. And then the prince, the dove, and the crying emoji.
Nice.
I'll just say the purple heart, just because we love Prince.
Yes.
And then the rain emoji.
Aww.
So for purple rain. All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.